Yes, I mean, you can talk too if you want. You just don't get a microphone. So, is Rainn here? I don't see him. He's hiding. Oh, Rainn. How can we welcome Rainn Wilson to the stage? Keep that clap going. He's not here yet. Dramatic. Welcome.
Hi.
How's the crowd looking tonight from the back? You check them out?
Pretty meager.
Meager?
Yeah.
What do you think that caused?
But
that
really,
meager?
really good looking.
That's the Church of Christ difference.
Ah. That should be in your on your motto. Or do you have a flag?
No. What do you think the flag should look like?
Do you have a one of those license plate frames?
Okay, I think we're onto something.
Like that could be like Church of Christ, meager and hot, or I don't know.
Meager and hot.
You know, whatever your slogan. What was the slogan you wanted to put on the thing?
Meager and hot, I think, is better than anything I had.
But you're not meager. There's millions of you.
There's millions, yes.
Yeah.
Technically, there's millions of you in the Baha'i faith. Like, there's 6 million.
Yeah, something like
Ish.
that. Ish, yeah.
Which there's, I think, the same amount of Muslims in America. And I think both of you now have surpassed the city of Detroit.
Wow.
So congratulations. Take that, Detroit.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to get competitive with Detroit.
What, like if you had to match up against Detroit, the entire Baha'i faith community, what do you think would be an area of weakness against Detroit that you would have to mitigate against?
Wow, that's a really complicated question. And it's got a lot of layers to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why it's a podcast.
But let me see. What could happen? The Baha'is would, like, they're so peace-loving, they would just, like, hug the people of Detroit.
They would.
So, yeah.
And honestly, everyone loves a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even people from Michigan. How's it going?
Well, okay, so you've been on campus here a few times.
We're in a chapel. Is this sacrilegious to have a podcast in a chapel?
Truth be told, I actually work in a church.
Yeah.
And I do a podcast in my office pretty frequently.
But we're on a what is this? Not an altar? What is this?
Tile?
Nice.
The old 18 by 18 tile makes it even more holy.
Yeah. It's very
You want
Roman.
a pulpit?
Yeah.
It could be called a pulpit if you want it.
Yeah. I don't know.
You want a true story? So the church I'm a part of in Austin, Texas, we renovated our main worship area, some call it a sanctuary.
Okay.
And I showed up one Friday night, and the techs who were EQing all the speakers and all that had Justin Timberlake's new album, and they were booming it in there,
blasting it. Huh?
Yeah, they were
rocking the sanctuary.
Yeah, they were getting their sexy back on,
Right.
and I walk in like, "Oh, Pastor, I'm so sorry," and I'm like, I cannot believe you had that on, because I was also listening to it in my car. So, because sometimes you got to get your sexy back on before you preach.
Sure.
Have you ever thought about that?
Have I ever thought about the fact that one needs to get one sexy on before one preaches?
No, sexy back.
Oh, sexy back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No. Okay.
That's first time.
You came, you've been on campus a few times, and I saw this because it was on the Twitter. Therefore, it's true. If it's on the internet, therefore it's true.
Absolutely.
And you were in John Barton's Bible class.
Yep, that's right.
And as a pastor, we've got students who are coming to Pepperdine next year. My thought is that's awesome for them to get exposed to other faiths and hear their story. And that was awesome.
Yeah. Well, John Barton, who runs the religious studies department here, he is really a cool dude, and he's into kind of hearing people from other faiths and having his students go on field trips out to experience ceremonies and things in other faiths. So people will go to a Buddhist retreat center or a Muslim church mosque, or whatever, mosque. And so they had, some of them were going to some Baha'i gatherings, and I came in and kind of told my story, and we had a lovely time.
Okay, so if people don't know much about the Baha'i faith, some of the tenets of that, you have a service every 19 days?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm ripping this off from your book.
Oh,
so
okay, yep, okay.
You can disagree with yourself,
Well, a service. Okay, so we have a gathering every 19 days. Yes.
You sound like a church planner, because we're like, we don't have services, we have experiences.
Nice.
You're
I
welcome.
would be a good church planner.
You would. You'd be great at it.
Yeah.
What would you name your church?
Carl.
Now, if you were a real pastor, or actually if you were like a real pastor, that would stand for something. It would be caring, always loves...
Christ rifles.
Yeah, rifles, yeah. No, that's if you were a Texas pastor. Then you would talk about rifles.
Christ rifles, yeah.
Okay, so every 19 days you have a gathering. Daily meditation is part of...
Sure, daily prayer and meditation, yep. Mm-hmm.
This is right from your book, I think.
Right.
Okay.
No, you're... Okay, do you want me to... Are you handing the baton? You want me to tell?
Give me the baton back.
Okay.
I want it back.
You go.
Yes, and.
Here you go. Take the baton.
Thank you it's
now
so
continue.
heavy. Why is it heavy?
It's your podcast, man. I'm just answering the questions.
You're doing great. And you guys have a 19-day kind of fast. It's similar to Ramadan?
That's correct, yes.
When is that?
In March. March 2nd through March 19th, we have a fast where we do not eat or drink when the sun is up.
But when it's down,
we party.
You party it up?
Yeah, we get crazy up
crazy?
in there. Yeah.
What is a crazy Baha'i fast party like? Is there anything specific?
It's like In-N-Out burgers.
Yeah. No,
but it's kind of weird because you get up when you really don't feel like getting up. So you get up at 5:30 in the morning, and then you eat a big breakfast, which you don't really feel like doing, but it helps you get through the day. And then you go about your day, and when the sun goes down, boy, those first bites taste so good.
Yeah. That's I'm hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah, but the fast, it has a lot of spiritual reverberations besides that. I mean, there's, throughout the day, you're remembering why you're fasting. You're more connected to God. You're denying yourself something that is kind of daily physical pleasure. For something greater than yourself. I think there's kind of a mystical connection during a fast like that to the sun itself, because you're kind of, Baha'is don't worship the sun or anything like that, but metaphorically, like the sun is in the sky and crossing the sky, and you're not eating or drinking when that's happening, and then the sun sets, and then you're able to eat and drink. So you're praying and meditating in the morning before the sun comes up. There's something really powerful about that. And that's in a lot of different faith traditions. Mm-hmm. How you doing? You can get a good photo from there? All right.
Is that your good side? Which is your...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Both are good sides.
I mean...
Hi. So it's a really spiritually powerful time. It also forces you to slow down because you just can't keep going at the same rate. I'm going to twist my chair around a little bit so I can see you better. It's got a lot of power to it. You have to slow down. You remember why you don't have the energy that you normally had, and then you also realize this last fast. I was realizing I eat all the time. I eat people will be like, how you'll have a friend. I'm like, oh, I'm starving. You're not starving, dude. The hunger that we feel in our lives is a tiniest twinge of oh, maybe you could eat something. Hunger takes 24 hours to kick in.
To really feel it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'll just be at home. I'll do some sunflower seeds. I'll have some raisin bran. Oh, maybe I'll have an apple. I'm just kind of snacking through the day.
Do you put the sunflower seeds in your raisin bran?
No,
that separately.
My son gets the Trader Joe's raisin bran.
Oh, okay.
He puts it in yogurt in the morning. It is the best snack in the world. It's unbelievable.
They also have really good almond butter.
Yes.
I want to call it peanut butter, but it's...
Almond butter, yeah.
Almond
I
peanut
get that.
butter.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're not eating the raisin bran from Trader Joe's because you're on the fast, that's something you go to, of course. Meditation, social justice is part of the Baha'i faith. All these things that I think many go, wow, that's pretty fascinating, and something that actually many religions connect to. The idea for justice, the idea that in suffering, I think Richard Rohr, the Franciscan priest, said, all great spiritual traditions say that change happens through love or suffering.
Wow,
and so,
that's great.
So fasting is a way of entering into suffering. So it's this very fascinating faith. And so your book that came out, I guess, a year and a half ago?
Yep.
The
Bassoon King? Yep.
That's a great
It's the first
title.
time you've said the word bassoon, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the absolute...
I want to say that before the podcast, Luke was like, hey, listen, man, I don't know about drama geek and band geek, and that's my kind of vaguely Texas accent. It's like, I don't know about that stuff. I was a jock. I ran track. I played football. So we're not going to get into the geek stuff. So
I didn't say the word geek. I didn't say geek.
I think you said geek.
It was fully implied, but it wasn't said.
Yeah.
But I respect your musicality.
Thanks.
The bassoon looks very
complicated.
Becoming on
It's
you.
a horrible instrument.
Yeah.
If anyone's listening right now, do not play the bassoon.
No. But it comes from the phrase...
It's chick repellent.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean, does any lady here go like, I got to get myself a bassoonist?
No.
No,
I don't think that
doesn't happen.
Okay.
Or a Baha'i. I need a Baha'i bassoonist. Yum, yum.
Someone's in the back going, Bahala at me? Yeah, no, I don't think so. We're going to fast forward through the music because I don't have...
Okay.
I'm really happy that you added to the world with your bassooning.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that. Most of us know that you're an actor. You started you were a stage actor in New York. Am I saying it right? Stage actor? Acting on a...
You're saying that, you're pronouncing it perfectly. Yeah, I went to acting school at NYU, and I did a lot of plays for like 9 or 10 years in New York before I did any TV or film. So it was kind of a strange experience. I write about that in The Bassoon King, about becoming a celebrity. I was like 40 when I became a celebrity, which was really weird. Most celebs become famous in their 20s. And forgive me for calling myself a celebrity, but you know what I mean. Recognizable for being an actor. I'm not really a celebrity. I'm not a Kardashian. Although, I have the ass of a Kardashian. But that was sacrilegious. I'm in a church and I said that word. And
wait, I thought you were talking about a donkey. Because we can use that.
Oh, yes.
If you're referring, I didn't know that they were farmers.
Do you know that I have a donkey? And I also have an ass. I literally own an ass. And her name is Chili Beans. And I also have a zonkey. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I say I do. My wife did. My wife, Holiday Reinhorn, is a weird animal connoisseur. We've also got 2 Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs that live in our backyard and sleep in our living room every night. And one of them is really mean. I want to say that Snortington is his name. He's the large one. He hisses at me if I come near his pig bed. And he has a weird clicking hiss. It is, I wonder if it's on YouTube. I need to film it. It's crazy. He's like...
How does that make you feel?
Scared. It's a scary, threatening sound.
Why do you feel like he needs to make that threatening sound to you?
It's like an alpha male thing.
Do you?
But as a Baha'i, I just.
Do you need to Caesar Milan that situation?
I do. I need some pig whispering.
Yeah. Maybe you need to.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about it. Now we're done. We can transition. So you were in New York. And in your book, you tell a story about you were at a party and you ended up seeing the face of God. There was a party that was a little different than some of the parties that I went to in seminary.
Okay.
It didn't end up so good for you, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. I had a mystical, transcendent experience, which was pretty unfortunate. There was a lot of. I grew up a member of the Baha'i faith, and I left it when I went off to school in New York City. I really just wanted to be a bohemian. I wanted to live a bohemian life, whatever the hell that means. I just wanted to be an artist and do what artists do when they live in Greenwich Village in New York City and wear berets and smoke cigarettes or whatever it is they do. And so I left my faith behind, and part of that was a rebellion against my parents. Part of it is a natural thing that I think a lot of people in their 20s do, where they need to kind of find themselves. And, unfortunately, it kind of led me down a road with a lot of drug and alcohol use and abuse for a while, which is an age-old story. But I got really stoned on Christmas morning, which is fitting that we're in a church talking about this. And I was living in an abandoned beer brewery in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, with no heat and no bathroom and rats. And
a guard dog downstairs, right?
And a guard dog held by a chain that you had to it was literally like an episode of Harry Potter. You had to kind of sneak around it, just at the outskirts of the circumference of its chain to get into the loft. And but it was rent free, and that's why I was there. And I had a total freak out on this marijuana. Maybe it was laced with something, I don't know. But I started sweating. My heart was palpitating, like I was hallucinating. And my friend John was on the phone downstairs, and I was yelling at him. I was like, John! And he thought I was joking around, so he was laughing. And I was like, John, get up here! And he was laughing and laughing. So there were these lit candles. So I started throwing these lit candles at him, and they would shatter. And then we had a pile of garbage in the corner, and it caught on fire. And then he knew something was seriously up. But
hold on, how many candles did you throw at him before he realized something was up?
I think it was the third candle that he got it.
Because the first one's always like a warning candle.
Exactly, yeah. But at first he was like, what's that broken glass? And the second one is like, did he throw something at me? And the third one is like, holy, I'm not going to swear in here. He just caught this garbage on fire. This is crazy. So he stomped it out and came up. And I really did see the face of God, and I swore to the face of God that I would never smoke pot again. So it was a really strange experience. I don't know if you've ever seen a Mark Rothko painting. Have you ever been to the Rothko Chapel in Houston?
I haven't got that invitation.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's a beautiful chapel, much like this, and the abstract expressionist artist Mark Rothko did murals all over it. It's really beautiful, but it just was this kind of horizon, golden sunset, beautiful, luminescent. The only way to describe it was just like this vast horizon, almost like on another planet or something, like Tatooine or something like that. And I was like, there wasn't an actual face. It wasn't like eyes and nose and stuff like that. And I was like, in my head, I was like, holy, that's the face of God. And I was really like, I'm not going to smoke pot anymore. And I haven't smoked pot since then. And it was pretty freaky, but it was pretty profound too.
So as you describe your faith journey in your book, you said that one of the things that connected you back to faith was actually a Native American deity, which was different than the Baha'i faith that you grew up in.
Yeah, I mean, the Baha'i faith has a concept of God much like many of the other world's faiths. In fact, Baha'is really do believe and love Jesus Christ. We read the Bible at our gatherings. We believe in the divinity of the Christ. We also believe in the divinity of other spiritual teachers like Muhammad and the Buddha and Abraham and Moses and many others. And so what were we talking about? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, so yes. So the Baha'i concept of God is very similar to a lot of other Abrahamic religions in that it's not a fire and brimstone God. It's an all-loving, creative force in this universe and beyond this universe and countless other universes that is all loving and all creative and all giving and all knowing. And that's the God I grew up in. I didn't grow up with a fire and brimstone God, but for whatever reason in my time of rebellion, I really needed to become an atheist. I really needed to discard all that. I would say maybe I wasn't an atheist. I was like an extreme agnostic.
Okay.
And so but the thing that happened with me is I was living my dreams. I was living in Brooklyn. I had a beautiful girlfriend who's now my wife. We've been together for a very long time, 20-some years. And I was working as an actor. And this was beyond my wildest dreams. I was working with great directors. I had a wonderful group of friends. We had a rent-controlled apartment, which was amazing. And yet, I was very unhappy in my life. And that's what kind of got me thinking about God, because then I thought, well, maybe I was a little rash to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of God altogether. Maybe there's some truth there that I needed to find for myself. So I started reading the world's holy books, and I read the Bible, and I read the Quran, and the Bhagavad Gita, and the writings of the Buddha, and I really went on a deep dive. Like, if there is a God, I want to discover him or her or whatever it is for myself and just find the truth for myself. And that's when things really opened up for me, is what you referenced, is I was reading some Native American spirituality books, and I was reading about the god of the Lakota Sioux called Wakan Tanka. And Wakan Tanka literally means the great mystery. And as an artist, as someone who wanted to just make beautiful and important and creative and crazy works of art, that really resonated for me, the great mystery. It wasn't a father, it wasn't a daddy figure like Santa Claus keeping a list of who's naughty and nice and looking down on us, but it was something much more powerful and much more connected to earth and nature in the Lakota tradition, where God is the God of our ancestors, the God of animals, the God of plants, the God of the winds, the God of the directions. And all of a sudden I had kind of an awakening inside. I had a spiritual stirring inside of myself. Like, oh, that's a God I can get with. I don't know if I can believe in God right now, but I can believe in Wakan Tanka. So I spent a couple years just in that place.
And then it progressed more to working back to the faith of your youth.
Yes. So part of the books that I then read after that was I went back and started reading Baha'i books, which, of course, I don't know if young Christians can relate, but as a young Baha'i, I grew up in the Baha'i faith, and I certainly knew some Baha'i quotes and Baha'i stories and stuff, but I hadn't done a deep dive into the actual writings of Baha'u'llah, who is the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. So it was an opportunity for me to actually read the core materials, like really dive into it. And do you think, do Christians have that issue? Sometimes you grow up in the church, but you haven't actually really read the Bible or really studied the Bible? Or
yeah, obviously that's the experience of some, where they grow up and the faith is just their parents. And so this is where I'm supposed to go on Sunday mornings, and this is what I'm supposed to say I believe in. And then they eventually either walk away from faith or they personalize it and make it their own. Some also have a journey where they grew up in a kind of faith that eventually doesn't work for them, and they had things that they expected God to be and how God was supposed to work, and then they see the world and it goes, this doesn't make sense.
Right, it doesn't match up.
And then they have a deconstruction, and that's not working, and then either they walk away from faith or they find a way to reconstruct a faith that is folding in all the experiences and all the things that they're understanding about the world. And so I think that's that order, disorder, reorientation, or that construction, deconstruction, reconstruction is almost like a universal. It's almost like Joseph Campbell's monomyth kind of stuff, where the hero's journey, that's humanity. That's what we all go through.
And that's very well said, and I agree completely. And what was interesting to me is when I was really exploring the Baha'i faith, one of the central teachings of the Baha'i faith is the independent investigation of truth. Every human has the responsibility, the obligation to find the truth for themselves, to not just inherit the truth of their parents, and to not inherit the truth of the society around them, because society around us has some crazy ideas about what is true. Like cool stuff can make you happy. You know, if you kind of believe, if you believe the truth of society, that's what you would buy that, and that status over someone else will make you feel okay or feel better about yourself or something like that. So it's really important for all of us, I think, to find the truth for ourselves. So it was interesting to see that central teaching in the faith was one that I had actually undergone and spent 10 or 12 years going through.
Yeah. So in your book, you described you were making your way back towards faith, and then you said that part of the reason that you went back to this faith wasn't just because it was your parents' faith or what you grew up in, but because you found this one, words you used were like, this was the most advanced, or this was the one, it made the most sense to you.
It made the most sense, yeah.
And there's so much about the Baha'i faith that does make sense. The concern for justice, the idea of welcoming and embracing all people, and it seems that that makes so much sense to so many people. The idea of welcoming and embracing, and as you just said a second ago, you'd say you're a follower of Jesus. What language did you use?
Baha'is believe in the divinity of Jesus
Christ. Okay. So.
Yeah.
And as you're trying to incorporate all of these different manifestations, is that the language you guys use? The idea that
the Baha'is use the word manifestation instead of like prophet. So that these divine teachers come down. It's a concept called progressive revelation. So how does God spiritually educate humanity? He does this by, besides the podcast.
Okay.
Every 500 or 1,000 years or so like that, a special divine teacher, Baha'is call them manifestations of God, are God-made flesh that hold a special station above humans, come down to kind of gradually unfold God's message. So if you look at the religions that rose up around them, you'll see a lot of differences. But if you look at the words of Krishna or the Buddha or Abraham or Moses or Jesus or Muhammad, and now Baha'u'llah, the words themselves are totally similar. They're essentially the same message.
So, I can't ever say his name correctly. Baha'u'llah.
Close.
Thanks.
Yes.
Okay, so it was 1863. He was in prison in Tehran, and he has this enlightenment.
So he was part of a movement called the Babi movement that was looking at the kind of the coming Messiah. There was a messianic movement that was happening all over the world in many different religious faiths. There was the Protestant movement, and in Jesus, and in the Jewish faith, and in the Muslim faith. And he was imprisoned, and in prison he had essentially like Jesus and the dove being baptized.
Yeah.
He had a vision. There are some incredibly beautiful writings that he wrote. I'm going to misquote them, but one was like, "Lo, I was a man asleep upon my couch when now I'm forgetting it, but it's like the light of the Lord came upon me, and I saw the history of all that was and all that will be." And he knew that he had a special station and announced his mission later on, a few years later than that, and spent his entire life kind of being tortured and banished from country to country, and the Muslim authorities did not like that one bit.
Yeah, that's not always a very nice way to treat people.
But these divine manifestations always suffer in bringing their message.
Yeah. So so you and John have become friends. John obviously is...
John Krasinski from The Office?
You know what, you say that and people are like, oh, tell me more about The Office. This Jesus Baha'i stuff. Don't tempt them.
I know. Forget that. Strike that. Edit that out.
He's the worst.
John, the guy in the...
Barton.
Okay, yes, okay.
Yeah, the guy who introduced us.
Because John was the guy I threw the candles at.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, so I was...
Was that the same John?
I did not throw the candles at John Barton. At Dr. Reverend John Barton. No.
Do you feel like that might be something that happens in the future? Is that
Sure,
something you do
it
to a
could
lot
happen.
of
I think
Johns?
it may happen.
Do you
if
feel
he
like...
ropes me into another one of these events.
Hey, don't worry. After what you just said, I'm probably going to be fired from my job anyway. So, where are we going with this? I don't remember where I was going with that. Let's talk about the intersection of creativity and spirituality. You talk about in your book another gentleman from The Office, Ed Helms.
Yep.
No, Helm?
Yep. Just Helms.
Yep. Helms. You were telling him about Soul Pancake.
Yep.
And you were talking about the intersection of spirituality and creativity. And he said those things don't seem to go together.
Yeah, they seem mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people feel that way?
Yeah, and what he said, to be fair to Ed, who's a super sweet, smart guy, spiritual guy, in society, creativity and faith seem to be completely separate, in a way like science and faith are very separate, that they're put in these very separate boxes. And one of the things I discovered in my journey back to the Baha'i faith were some really beautiful Baha'i writings about how being an artist is... expressing art is the same thing as expressing faith. It's the same thing as expressing devotion. So Abdul Baha, who was Baha'u'llah's son, who was the center of the Baha'i faith for many years, had a quote to a young artist saying, "When thou movest the paintbrush, it is as twere thou were in prayer at the temple, in the temple." That is to say that when you're making something, you're emulating the creator. You have a blank page, and then there's a poem or a painting on it or a song that you've written. Just like God had this, tapestry of this empty universe and created, the Big Bang and all of this incredible wonder and beauty and splendor and think of all the different planets and solar systems and what must be on them. And as an artist, you're emulating that act, and there's something really beautiful and spiritually transcendent about that.
Yeah. So God is the creator, and whenever you create, you're imitating the creator. So you're entering into this like divine flow.
And it's one of the gifts that God has given us is the ability to create.
Okay. So what everyone wants to know is, how is Dwight worshiping? How is help us to connect the dots on your character. You 200 plus episodes being this guy. How did you see that to take the...
You have more podcast episodes than there are Office episodes, by the way.
I'm assuming the royalty checks I get for my advertisement is not comparable, though.
Do you have some really embarrassing advertisements on your podcast sometimes?
No, I think Podbean and
Dr. Scholl's shoe inserts.
No, Podbean, an all-in-one podcast hosting publishing network. That's not embarrassing. I'm proud to be connected to them.
Okay, there you go.
Especially when those checks come in the mail.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Done.
I'm a professional. Okay, but... when you're having your keys put in Jell-O by Jim... Stapler. Yeah. Whoa, wow. Like, I can mess up Jesus and won't get that response. You mess up Dwight. Okay, help us connect the dots on that. When that's in Jell-O and you're entertaining the world, you're making people laugh, how do you see that as worship?
Well, it's not quite so black and white. I think that some art is just for entertainment and is decorative, and it isn't as pure as it could be. So that I want to say that, number one. Number two is I have a God-given ability to play weird characters that are funny and strange, and I love doing it, and it's a lot of fun, and I get to do it, and I've done it ever since I was a kid. I played just weird characters at the dinner table, so I get to do that. Number one, I think there is something really profound about what an actor does. Actors get a bad rap, and rightfully so, because most of them are. I really want to swear in here, but I'm not going to swear.
The acoustics would make it really amazing.
But
to not swear.
So most actors are complete, and
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to say it. But I will say there is something really amazing when you see a great performance, when you see an actor transform themselves to become a character and to help tell a story, and you witness all of humanity expressing on their face and in their humor and in their physicality and in their history. And it can be really transformative, and it transports you when you're watching it when it's great. So I think there's something transcendent and divine about the craft of an actor, just like the craft of a musician or a poet or a dancer. I think that for me, the service of doing Dwight, I mean, it was just really super fun. But the service is, I hear all the time from people, and now that it's kind of living on Netflix and everyone and their mother is watching it and rewatching it, which is fantastic, I always hear my brother was dying from cancer, and we would stay in the hospital bed, and we would watch The Office, and we would just laugh together, and your show meant so much to me. I was going through the hardest time, and I really needed to laugh, And you hear that time and time again. Like, our family was really disunited, but we would always gather on Thursday nights and we would watch The Office together. Mm-hmm. And it was the only show that the grandma and the dad and the sons and kids could all watch at the same time. And so I think I was fortunate to be a part of a really high-quality show that was able to entertain and make laugh, but also had really human characters that people related to. And it was kind of like a wonderful dysfunctional family.
Yeah. One of the beautiful things I think about it is it creates community, and it brings people together. Mm-hmm. And I think in the Genesis creation story, Genesis 1, God creates and says it's good. And I think there's something about enjoying the goodness of God's creation is seen in humor and smiling and laughing. I feel like that reflects the beauty of the world that God has given us. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways that beauty brings us together is that, like you just said, people sit down and watch the show together. About 8 or 9 years ago, I was working at this church. I was on staff and I was about to go start another one. And so it was a big staff, and we would sometimes get together and watch The Office as the whole group. And one time we got the senior pastor to show up, and we were watching it, and we were so excited. Oh, this is going to be awesome. There's 3 or 4 young families, and then the big dog shows up, and it was the gay witch hunt episode. And I was like,
okay, this is,
It was not my idea. So thanks for that. That was a real special moment for me.
How did it go over?
I had to leave the church in a few months, but that was part of the plan. But isn't that, like, I can't think of a bigger gift that an artist can create than to give something that brings people together, that creates joy and laughter. And so I think be able to fuse those things together in the same way that we need to be able to fuse together science and religion, creativity and religion, like we're...
And the most important thing in the Baha'i faith, and I believe in the true Christian faith, is service and service to others. And if you are creative, if you're entertaining someone, if you're transporting their heart with music and song, if you're making them ponder their lives with poetry, if you're making them laugh with acting, whatever it is, you're doing a service for that person. So besides being a creator and emulating the creator, that's another aspect of art, that it can be incredibly self-indulgent and materialistic and wrong-headed as well. Don't get me wrong, but when it's at its most pure, it really is service to the people that are witnessing it.
Yeah. Okay, you said that one of the insights that you learned in your acting is the importance of listening to the actual character next to you. And you talked about one of the worst traits is indicating, which I have no clue what that even means.
Okay.
But I love the idea that to tell your story well, you don't just know your lines, but you're actually listening and engaging with the people right in front of you. Now, I know one of the tenets of your religion is that there aren't any clergy, which, I don't like that because that's kind of my job.
Find that a little threatening.
We're going to ignore that, okay? Just because I've got 3 kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got mouths to feed?
I've got lots of them.
So get a real job, okay? There's a Kroger's hiring.
You know it's bad when a guy who talks about beats for a living is telling me that I need to get a real job. That's okay. How? So if an actor doesn't need to indicate, you've seen sermons.
Now, indicating is, if you're for those watching here in the pews, if you are playing a scene and you're like, get out of here, and you're supposed to be really angry, so you can indicate get out of here, you're faking it and you're showing the camera or the audience that you're angry, and is different than really feeling the anger of the character and asking someone to get out, motivating it internally. So it's kind of external versus internal. That's what we're talking about. A little acting lesson. Boom.
So you've seen preachers. You saw one tonight.
Yes.
You've probably seen other Christian preachers.
Yeah.
Any notes for them? As someone who's a professional, in ways you're telling stories. They're telling stories. What do you think the big sin for them is? Not literal sin, but...
The big sin for them?
No, just get past the word sin here.
Well, I think that what I would look for in a sermon, in a good sermon, is quotes from and by Jesus. Remember him?
Yeah.
And maybe a little Peter and Paul and Luke, a few other apostles, but really quotes
Luke's
from
a good
Jesus,
one.
what Jesus said, what Jesus did, and then it's always better to personalize it. It's always better to say, here's what I went through, here's how it relates to this quote, and here's what I learned in going through this process. So those would be a couple of things that I would say. I don't. It's not like I haven't heard preachers do that before, but I think that's always going to be, if you can bring the Word of God and you can relate it to your personal life, it's going to carry the message much more effectively. Boom.
That was pretty good. I think you should try it sometime. Maybe John will get you a chapel date and you could preach a sermon. Think we can make that happen?
Sarah?
Yeah. Well, let's thank Rainn for being here.
Hey!
Can I tell you one more thing as we close?
Yes.
Patricia is your
Mother's
mother.
name, yeah.
You want to know what my mom's name is?
Patricia?
No, it's not.
Oh!
Actually, it is. It is
a setup.
Patricia.
Okay.
But your mom legally changed her name
To Shay.
to
Yeah.
Shay.
Yeah.
My mom has gone by Pat,
Pat or Patty?
Trish, but she's also gone by Dusty. What is it about people with the name Trisha or Patricia that makes them want to change their name?
It's a terrible name. It's just a terrible name. Do we have any Patricias here tonight?
No, that's all the Patricias that are leaving right now.
Patty? They're like, oh, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Patty, Pat, Trish, Trisha, Tishy, Tushy, Dusty, whatever you want to call it. It's just.
I'm sure they're all envious. They were like,
Yeah.
I wish I could be Rainn.
Yeah, that's Rainn is no cakewalk either. Believe me, I was tortured as a child. Obviously, that's how I drew upon the pain that it was expressed through Dwight Schrute.
Well, I'm glad you felt that pain to share it with the rest of the
Hey,
world.
thanks for having me, Luke.
All right, appreciate it.
All right.
Now, I know some of you want autographs and selfies and pictures, and the good news is they'll be available because I'm going to stay up here and I'll sign whatever you want. I'll take whatever picture you want, and I'm stalling so that he can get to his next event. So don't go talk to him right now. If you want, Pete Enns is right there in the middle. He will sign your shirt, your forehead. Huh? You can? That's good. Hey, thank you all for being here. You're dismissed.